Hey guys, it's Silv. I got another one of my sketchbook flip through videos. If the thing is wobbling, I'm really sorry. My cat just hopped on the table. He has a habit of hopping on the table right as I need it. But yeah, so in September, I did a Forget-Me-Not themed sketchbook flip through, which kind of showed the development of the characters from, he's eating so much of my desk, from concept to like final. And that was really fun. I really enjoyed doing that. So I'm doing the same thing for my other franchise or my other series, The Faeries Tale. The Faeries Tale wasn't always The Faeries Tale. It was actually a different series called Noble Blood, and a lot of the main characters of The Faeries Tale were actually side characters in Noble Blood. So I didn't quite know where to start showing you guys stuff. So I'm starting like just before I officially started university, which means at that point in time, not the Fairy's Tale, Noble Blood would have been like maybe 2 or 3 years old at that point. So just for let me feel butt. So just for transparency, at the very start of these characters' conceptualization, Kuro looked like this, Alita looked like this, and somewhere along the line, Alita's design changed to this, but Kuro's design didn't actually change for a while. I also don't have a lot of traditional work to show. He's crinkling paper now. My cat's being such a menace. All right, he's finally stopped. So I also don't have an awful lot of traditional work to show you guys. There are technically more sketchbooks here than there were for the Forget-Me-Not flip through, but overall there is less traditional artwork to show. So after a certain point, I am going to hop over to the PC and I will show you guys some of the digital conceptualization that I did on my iPad, because my iPad was kind of like a digital sketchbook at the time. It still kind of is, but yeah, that's why there's not an awful lot of traditional work. I just wanted to show you guys the very, very early stuff. So, why don't we get started? All right, this is our first sketchbook for the day, and this one only has one Fairy's Tale related sketch. This is when the Fairy's Tale was still Noble Blood, just so you guys are aware. And this is a character that I had created to try and revamp Noble Blood, try and bring it back from its ashes. And this is the Moth. She didn't have a proper name for a while. This is the early concept art of who we now know as Mother, aka June. She's one of the main characters, or one of the main side characters in the Fairy's Tale, but originally she was a part of Noble Blood's revamp. I mentioned in my What the Heck is the Fairy's Tale video that I tried to revamp Noble Blood a handful of times, and every time just kind of resulted in failure. This is one of those attempts. This Noble Blood revamp did not follow through, but I really, really liked the character, and so that's why she stuck around. All right, on to the next sketchbook. This one's only got 4 annotated pieces in here. This is a sketchbook that I thought I had some Forget-Me-Not work in, but it turns out I didn't. So that was really fun. This is also pre-Forget-Me-Not. But if we have a little look, this is not necessarily relevant to the Fairy's Tale. I just wanted to show it off because I thought it was really cute. My cat's got the zoomies. One moment. Okay, he's outside. Sorry, he's being a menace today. So this isn't related to the Fairy's Tale. I just wanted to show it because it's really cute. These are some of the Noble Blood characters that I was trying to revamp and bring back. This is Chloe and her little twink of a boyfriend, Pip. They had a very on-again, off-again relationship, as you can see from the comic. Chloe has just woken up. Pip glumps her. Chloe says, "What are you doing?" And Pip says, "Hugging my lover." To which Chloe responds, "We broke up 2 days ago." And then Pip kind of buries his head in Chloe's back and is just like, "Hey, do you want to get back together?" She's like, "Yeah, okay." I loved their dynamic so much, and I miss them very much. I'm going to try and incorporate them in the Fairy's Tale, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. This was the next page. Also not relevant to the Fairy's Tale, but this is their dynamic very, very much. Bitch. Pussy. Love you though. I love these two so much. But the reason why I showed them off actually has to do with this page. So as you can see, like Chloe and Pip were kind of supposed to be a thing in Noble Blood, and they were supposed to have their relationship interfered with by Pandora. So I don't think I ever mentioned this when I talked about the Fairies Tale. Uh, but when the Fairies Tale was Nobleblood, Pandora was actually one of, if not the main antagonist. She was evil. She was obsessed with Pip. She was very, very skilled at tracking people, and she was actually hired by the parents of some of the characters to kind of like hunt them down and bring them back home. And it just worked out for her that Pip was traveling with the people that she was supposed to bring back. So she was a little bit of an antagonist, and I loved her very, very much. The main reason she came back in the Fairies Tale when Pip didn't is because, funnily enough, I think her relationship to Kuro is more important to her character than her relationship to Pip. Which I thought was really, really interesting. So that's why she ended up sticking around. I think I showed this off in the Snoo video. What the heck are Snoos? No, not what the heck are Snoos. My Snoo announcement video. And this is Alita hugging Rosha, who is her Snoo. I've mentioned before that Snoos is something that I had been developing for a long time. This was kind of the starting point of the Snoos, and I wanted them to be part of the Fairies Tale because I thought if I added more to the world building, then maybe I could fix the story. Didn't work out that way. It didn't work out that way. But Alita's really, really cute, and we love her. This is our one and only fairy princess. All right, moving on to the next sketch. This is just another example of how like Pandora was supposed to be a little bit of an antagonist. In Noble Blood, I don't know. I'm laughing. I'm laughing. I don't know why she ended up being so evil. I think I was obsessed with like yanderes at the time, and I just really, really wanted to write a yandere character, and so that's what she was for the longest time. She is not a yandere anymore. She's actually quite level-headed and really nice to be around in current day, but she was not that great. This is another picture of Pandora I drew for Inktober. This is just kind of to show that she always had some sort of magical connection, because there was magic in Noble Blood. It just wasn't like quite the same as how it is in the Fairies Tale, but Pandora was always able to wield magic. It's just the way that she wields magic has now changed a little bit. All right, we're on to sketchbook 3. I showed this sketchbook in the Forget Me Not flip through. This one only has like a single Noble Blood / like Fairies Tale drawing, and I only wanted to show it off because it has like an early picture of Kuro and Alita. So this one here is a little baby girl, Alita. This one here is a little baby boy, Kuro. Here you've got Pandora in her early phase, and here you've actually got Kuro's brother, Jimmy, who in Noble Blood was not Kuro's brother. Kuro was actually a magical being created by Jimmy's like negative energy. They interacted with like a magical pond or something. I have a video called Nintendo Stole My Idea, Not Clickbait, that I made years ago. It kind of explains what's going on here. Don't ask me how Nintendo is involved. I don't want to get into it. But I wanted to show this off just because it's got like the earliest version of like the main 4 characters of the Fairies Tale, and I just think it's really cute to have them all in one place like this. All right, on to the next one. This one's got a little bit more, but I think this is still like Noble Blood as opposed to the Fairies Tale. For context, I have a couple of more. We've got the quarantine one. I don't think it's until this one here that Noble Blood becomes the Fairies Tale. So you've got a lot of like late stage desperate attempt to save an old project that's dying type of sketch at the moment. So let's just hop right in. Okay, so this is very Noble Blood core, but I pinned this one because this is the point where Pandora's like kind of attitude and how she acts and behaves started to change a little bit. So I really wanted to, in Noble Blood, kind of address the very, very toxic relationship that Pandora and Pip had, because yeah, she was a stalker and she was like weird, but like Pip also had this kind of like draw to her, and they actually were exes, and they just had a really, really bad relationship with each other, and he's trying to move on, and Pandora's not kind of like letting him. Um, and so I really wanted to pin this because this is where like Pandora's like kind of outlook starts to change a little bit. So Pip says, "This is real life. You don't get to restart things when you make a mistake. Do you even feel any remorse for what you did to them? What you did to me?" And Pandora doesn't really know how to react to that, honestly. And I don't know, I just really, really liked this moment. One, because it's the point in Noble Blood where Pandora would start to kind of change a little bit, but this aspect of Pandora, the whole like kind of she looks small in this picture. She looks kind of timid almost, and really, really late Noble Blood and really, really early Faeries Tale kind of had this version of Pandora. The yandere aspect of her was like dropped entirely, and I'm convinced looking back that this comic was kind of like the start of that, the start of Pandora's like evolution as a character. All right, here we've got some more stuff. I was really, really desperately trying to bring some sort of substance to Noble Blood. I was really trying to breathe life into it. And so one of the things that I tried to do in order to make me feel better about the project was spend a little more time giving all of the female characters differing body types from each other. Pandora was always supposed to be really thin and not very curvaceous, and Chloe was also like always supposed to have like this kind of body type. But in my early developmental like stages as an artist, I didn't really like know how to do that kind of stuff. And so every female character just ended up having the Chloe body type, even though I wanted them to have different body types. And so this is me kind of playing around with it. Pandora was a lot thinner, a lot less curvaceous. And then if we flip over, you can see that I was also trying to play around with some of the other characters. I think this was like the start of my exploration into how to draw plus size characters. I think later on in this sketchbook, I'm trying to like play around with distribution of fat and how that looks, but like that's not really relevant to like what we're doing right now. I was really, really trying to give these girlies like different attributes from each other just to make them a little bit more unique. Ah, okay, we've got our first Kuro dump here. So Kuro is an incredibly, incredibly edgy boy. I can't say too much about his character arc in Noble Blood because funnily enough, a lot of it actually carries through into the Faeries Tale. Not an awful lot of his story changed. The only parts of his story that changed were his origins, the kind of like themes that I wanted to explore with him, and like everything else was basically the same in terms of what happens to him and around him in the story. I remember this song actually. I think this song was an animation meme that was really popular at the time. It says here, "You're the fuck up of my life because I'm still in love with," and then it cuts off. I think the song is called Sick. I'm not entirely sure, but Kuro was an edgy little emo boy, and he still kinda is in the Faeries Tale, but we've mellowed it out quite a bit. I don't draw Kuro suffering nearly as much as I do now. Now, when I want to draw someone suffering, I draw Kaden. But I just really, really like this. I really like this expression. I don't know why. The like open-ended eyes. Like, I kind of miss that I used to draw that. I don't know why I stopped, but I kind of miss it. It feels like you can do a lot more with it. So who knows? Maybe I'll bring that back. But here's our first spread of our edgy little boy, Kuro. Ah, and this is something else that I wanted to share. So we've got like an early, like just a unfinished drawing of my baby little boy Kuro, and we have this drawing right here. Right? I'm not gonna read what that says, but we have this little drawing right here. So fun fact, this drawing was actually concept art for a key ring. I don't know if I have the key rings around anymore because this was back in 2019, but if I can find it, I'll show you guys. Okay, I couldn't find it. I turned my entire apartment upside down. I've been looking for maybe 30 minutes, and I couldn't find it. I did find an early draft of a Pandora keyring from around the same time, like around 2019-ish. So that was really nice, but it's not what I was looking for. So, you know, I'm sure my partner's got one somewhere in his room, but he's not home at the moment, and I don't want to go rummaging through his stuff. But this was a keyring of Kuro that I had made, and uh, it's still very, very relevant to a point where when the series is all done and like all wrapped up, I'm probably gonna bring this keyring back. I'm just gonna, you know, obviously redraw it to be more fitting with like the new art style and stuff. But this is still very, very, very relevant, which is why I wanted to show it off. Call it, all right, my cat has returned. He's, making a mess. Nimmy. Okay, we're back. This is sketchbook number 5. And just like a lot of the others, there's only one annotation in there. As you can see, this is like the point in my life where I was really, really falling not out of love, but definitely falling out with Noble Blood because it just was not working out. And the only picture in this sketchbook is another picture of Mother. This is where she officially gets her name, Mother. Let me hold it up for you, guys. Alright, it says, hopeless romantic, lost her family, wants to prove herself as worthy, just generally, by becoming as close to a god as possible, was deemed unfit to be a mother, and her husband gained full, and then it's just blank after that. Up here it says Lapis, who's pitiful now. That was a Steven Universe thing that really resonated with me when I made this character. This isn't what Mother looks like now. She's gone through a couple of different iterations, but this is like the second iteration of Mother. As you guys saw earlier in the sketchbooks, she looked a little bit different, but mostly the same to this. So I think that's really fun. I love doing little spreads like this. All right, I'm bringing the Quarantine Me sketchbook back. This is the one that had a lot, and I mean a lot, of Forget-Me-Not content, because this is the sketchbook that I did all of the thumbnailing for the comic in. Like I said, it's a handmade sketchbook. Some of the threads have come loose over time. I have literally just noticed that, but it's still mostly holding together. Unfortunately, for the context of the Faeries Tale, there's only one picture in here. And that, funnily enough, is on the spread next to Haley. So we've seen this Haley picture before. We're going to cover her up. We're going to focus on this right here. This is Alita. One of the earliest, well, not earliest, one of the newest versions of Alita. She doesn't have this in her design anymore, the like exposed tummy with the flared shirt. She also doesn't have the visible underboob wiring. I just felt it looked a little bit shit, for lack of a better term. And you've got like Pip from Noble Blood here, kind of laughing, like a little bit of a silly Billy. But this is kind of where I tried to bring back the idea of the fairies, because as I mentioned in my What the Heck is the Faeries Tale video, the fairies were originally a mini arc in Noble Blood, and that mini arc was supposed to help push the main arc forward. But I just kind of sat down and was like, what if the fairies were the main arc as opposed to the mini arc? And this is where I really started to play around with the idea of the fairies being the main part of Noble Blood rather than, you know, just part of a bigger story. And so you're gonna see a little bit of Pandora, a little bit of Alita and Pip together, both in my traditional work and in my digital work. But it doesn't last very long, just letting you know. Okay, we're on the second last sketchbook. This is where the Noble Blood turns into the Faeries Tale. This is where it starts, okay? On our first spread, we've got just a cute little couple of drawings of Alita. Nothing too serious here. She's still got her really gross, like, underboob wiring, which is, like, I don't know why I had that. But this is just me getting familiar with her character again, drawing her in the new art style. It's kind of more akin to Forget-Me-Not now, but it changes a little bit. It's mostly the same, but it does change a little bit from here. Once again, Pip is not in the Faeries Tale, but he was the main character of Noble Blood, and so in the early iterations of the Faeries Tale, he was the main character. This is this awkward, gross period where it wasn't quite Noble Blood, but it wasn't quite the Faeries Tale either. It was like a little hybrid of both. And so Pip was the main character of this story. As you can see, Alita is very, very tall woman, and Pip is very, very short next to her. But yeah, they were supposed to be like the main duo of the story. As you can see here, we've got like a cute little picture of Alita having hugging Pip a little bit too tightly around the neck. We have this necklace, which don't worry about it. It's incredibly important, but we'll get there when we get there. And then obviously this is me trying to bring some of the Noble Blood characters into the story, trying to figure out what I can and can't get away with before the plot becomes just a little bit too much. We have some more Pip and Alita really, really playing with the height difference here. Alita originally was a very tall woman, like borderline giant, if I can be honest. And Pip was always kind of on the shorter side, but I wanted to really exaggerate it. Late in Pip's development, it became a very big thing for his character that he would commonly be mistaken for a mouse because of how small he is. And so I really, really wanted to play with that. And I miss the dynamic between Pip and Alita. I really do. It was just such good fun. But unfortunately, like I said, doesn't really have a place in the Faeries Tale, at least not yet. Ooh, okay. So, remember in my What the Heck is the Faeries Tale video where I said there were more side characters that I wasn't willing to show off yet? And they were characters that had been taken from Noble Blood and brought into the Faeries Tale. This is one of them. I'm going to show you some of the early concepts, but you guys won't see this character for a very long time. At least the grown-up version of this character. Because, spoiler alert, there's going to be a time skip at some point. So this was the original, like, art style and the original character. And I was struggling a lot because I didn't quite know how to draw him in the new style in a way that I liked, but that also didn't make him look like Caden. Because this character also ends up having a lot of sharp features and orange hair, and I'm like, I don't know, how do I make him look like not Caden? And I was really, really struggling with that for a little while. As you can see, I continued to play around with it. It was mainly the hair that was giving me an issue. I felt like, to some degree, I could get away with the face looking similar to Caden if the hair looked different. It didn't quite work out, but eventually we landed on something that we liked, and that was this one right here. I feel like this is different enough that he doesn't feel like Caden. I might change him up a little more as the series goes on, because again, you're not going to see this version of this character for a very long time, so there's plenty of time to change him and edit him up a little bit. But this is like what we've currently landed on, and this is the other character that is part of the Faeries Tale that you guys won't be seeing for a while. I'm not going to name him. He does have a name. I'm not going to say his name, but this is me trying to fit him into the more, like, the different art style that is the Faeries Tale, because he looked really good and he fit in with the universe with the old art style, but with the new one, I have to kind of, like, figure out what it is I want to do with him. So this is just some early concepts. His design's not, like, finalized yet. I just know that he's gonna be really, really, fucking creepy next to this other character. So this is the version of the child character that you're, like, of the redhead character that you're gonna see. At least, like, during the Faeries Tale, like, the first main arc. This is Cole. I'm not gonna tell you anything about him other than this is Cole, and he's my baby boy, and I love him very much. And then his grown-up design is probably gonna change, but this is what the current, like, grown-up version of Cole kind of looks like. This is a very, very important friend in his life, which the dynamic will be explored in the Faeries Tale, okay? The dynamic will be explored in the Faeries Tale, but this is a character that was not in the What the Heck is the Faeries Tale video, but I wanted to show him off anyway, because there's a lot of concept art for him just in that burst right there, and I thought it would be really fun. Alright, and our last bit of the Faeries Tale work from this sketchbook actually has to do with Cole. This was inspired by Arcane. This is the point where the Faeries Tale stopped being noble blood. It stopped being in that awkward middle ground phase where it didn't really know where it was, and it definitively became the Faeries Tale. Originally, the story was going to focus on Cole and stuff that happens with him and Alita. However, I feel like the impact of Cole's story and his connection to Alita doesn't really work unless you have the prequel seasons, which is Kuro and Alita and Pandora and all of that. So this is the start of it. This is the start of it. This drawing was inspired by the song Giants, which I mentioned in my What the Heck is the Faeries Tale video. Arcane had just come out, and I was like, fuck it, here we are. So this is a very definitive point in the Faeries Tale, this particular sketch. All right, and this is the last of the traditional work that I have to show for the Faeries Tale. This is like a brown, like Italian paper style sketchbook that I have. It's like all recycled paper. You can't see it very well on camera, but it's like very, there's like a whole bunch of like different colors sprinkled in because it's like recycled and shit. Not important to the video, but these stickers were actually stickers that I sold at my first attempt of running an Etsy store. That store did not go very well. It did not last very long. I still have a lot of these stickers. Sometimes, if I remember, I put them as freebies in my new Etsy store's orders. But I think they're really cute. I really enjoy them. I just needed somewhere to stick them. And this is before I designed my reusable sticker paper books. So that's those. But the last sketch that I have to show you is not anything serious. It's just Pandora in a cute little strawberry themed outfit. This is the point where I was like, okay, who is Pandora, right? I had decided a long time ago that I didn't want her to be this yandere type character anymore, but I'm trying to figure out at this point, who actually is she? You know what I mean? Putting her in a bunch of cute little outfits. I just really, really liked drawing Pandora for a while. I still do. But this is the end of the traditional side of the Faeries Tale. So now, let's hop into the digital stuff. Wait, hang on, I lied. There's also one more page, and this is early conceptualization of the Faeries Tale logo. I had a very clear vision of what I wanted for the logo really, really early on. And fun fact, fairies is spelt differently. There is there's a legal reason why fairies is spelt the way it's spelt and not like this. And it's because there's already an existing novel called The Faeries Tale, and I refused to let go of the title, so I just changed the spelling of fairies so that it's legally distinct. But now I mean it. That is the end of the traditional part of The Faeries Tale, so now we can move on to the digital stuff. Oh my god, guys, no, we're not done yet. We're not fucking done yet. Remember this? Remember this keyring that I made that I was like, these were made into physical products. This is story relevant, yada, yada, yada. Found it. My boyfriend did have one. He texted me telling me where I could find it. So yeah. I don't know. I think it's pretty neat. I really hope the camera focuses because I want you guys to see it. But yeah, that's what that was. Now we can move on to the digital stuff. All right, this is some of the stuff that I grabbed from my iPad, and a lot of it is going to be Pandora concept art because Pandora, oh my goodness, Pandora was a fucking nightmare, dude. So I sent these pictures to myself on Discord just because it was the easiest way to get things going. But Pandora went through a couple of different things. First off, I was debating whether or not Pandora was even going to stay a rabbit or if we were going to make her human. And I was convinced at the time that if Pandora was human, she would be a black woman. But now I'm thinking if Pandora was a human, she would probably be Korean. So At the time, I envisioned her as a black woman, and this is the concept that I came up with. Some of you who have seen my early work for Forget Me Not 2 have seen this hairstyle before, and that's because when I scrapped it for Pandora, I actually reused it for a Forget Me Not character. So that's why this hairstyle might be familiar to some. But this was me playing with the idea of whether or not Pandora was even going to be a rabbit anymore. She also went through a couple of design changes in terms of her outfit. I really did not know what I wanted to do with Pandora. Here she's got a really flowy skirt, she's got a really nice regal gem. This gem would have been where she gets her magical power instead of her staff. I don't know why, but she's got belt buckles on her legs. Like, come on, girly. There was also this one, which definitely felt more like Pandora. It felt like more of a rogue type situation going on. I do really like this one, specifically how the tops of her boots almost look like they double up as knee pads. I think that's really fun, but ultimately this is not what we ended up going with either. This is the look that became the final look. This is Pandora's outfit during the series. And while I had the outfit nailed down, the colors were just as hard to figure out. This was one of the first color pieces that I put together. I really liked the idea of pink and green, and I thought the mossy green was really cute, but something about this just wasn't hitting right. Eventually, I tried to make it more brown-based, but as you can see, based on how unfinished it is, this didn't end up going anywhere. There was even a stage where I did a complete overhaul, and instead of using green, I used blue and gave her more of like a cosmic motif. I do like this one, but it's not nearly as hard-hitting as the others. Then I went back to the green design and just changed the shade of green that the coat was, and we started getting somewhere. I really liked this one, but the shoes were a bit of an issue. So we changed the color of the shoes, and finally we have a finalized Pandora. I remember sitting in my grandparents' living room with my iPad, sweating. Not because it was hot, but because every other character's redesign came to me so naturally. I only ever did one redesign for Kuro and Jimmy. Like, it was just easy. I was like, okay, cool. This is what they're going to be wearing from now on. And that was it. I don't have any messy concept sketches like I do with Pandora. And Pandora took me, like, maybe the entire afternoon to figure out. And I remember going to my cousin being like, hey, how does this look? Hey, how does this look? Hey, how does this look? And blessed be my cousin. Sometimes her advice was not helpful whatsoever, and sometimes it was really helpful. My God, it was a nightmare getting Pandora, like, prepped and ready and finalized. It was, oh my God. And funnily enough, the only other character that gave me design issues was also a woman. This is Mother. I didn't know how I wanted Mother to look in terms of her aesthetics, but the one thing I knew I wanted for certain was that I wanted her wings to be big enough to kind of wrap around her into a coat, like this middle piece here. I just think that's really cute and really fun, but I didn't know what kind of outfit to put her in because, truth be told, I didn't want to hide her. I really didn't, and for a while, I contemplated just leaving her, like, quote-unquote naked, but, like, having, like, animal fur over her bits, so, like, it was not, like, pornographic. But yeah, I just couldn't do it. It looked too weird. I ended up designing a few outfits for her. I really like this one because this one's got fluff everywhere. Got fluff on her neck, she's got fluffs on her arms, she's got fluff on the bottom of her shorts, fluff on the top of her boots. She looks really cute. I really like it. This is that design colored. I decided to give her like stockings just because I felt it would make her look a little more comfortable. I think she looks a little bit too modern in this design, and you'll see it when I put her next to the others. This is that design next to Jimmy, Kuro, and Pandora. Like I said, I don't have any concept sketches of Kuro and Jimmy because I just kind of drew the new design and then that was it. I was like, oh cool, I'm happy with this. It is what it is. But I felt like Pandora. I felt like Mother didn't really fit in with the trio. I think this outfit looked a little bit too modern. I went back to the drawing board and this time I gave her a really, really nice coat. It's the kind of coat that I would want for myself, honestly. You can still see the chest fluff and like the fluff on the wrists, but she's got like long sleeves. She's got a little nice amount of buttons up here, a nice big belt, and the bottom of the coat is like fluffed. And then also you've got the fluff on the boots. This is what it looked like colored. It is adorable. I fucking love it so much. But again, when you put it next to the others, I feel it just kind of looks a bit too modern still. I don't know what was going on. I couldn't get a good grasp on what I wanted Mother's outfit to look like in tandem with everybody else's. I could dress her up really, really cute, but the second you put her in the setting that she's supposed to belong to, it just didn't really work out. I went back to the drawing board a couple of times, trying out different hairstyles, different aesthetics, and nothing was really working. I think I landed on something like this, but like shorter hair. I'll pull up a picture of what Mother actually looks like right now. This is Mother's like final turnaround. This is the design that we landed on. I'm sorry if you can hear a car in the background. I don't know what they're doing out there, but this was the final design that we landed on. It's not nearly as fun as, say, the jacket that I gave her, but I really do think this allows her to fit into the setting with the other characters a lot better. I'm not going to show too much more because I don't really know how much more I can show before it gets like too spoilery. But this is like a really, really quick, brief map that I made out of the village. I think today the village is a little bit bigger than this, but it's supposed to be like a small village compared to like say a town or even a city. So you've got the orphanage over here, you've got Kuro's place over here, Jimmy lives all the way on the other side of town. I wonder why that could be. You've got this cute little park, which is where Kuro and Pandora like to spar a lot, and you have this cute little town square that's got a couple of little markets for some of the small businesses and the farmers and such, and I just think it's really fun. This is a concept of the orphanage from the outside. I wanted it to look as plain and simple as possible because Mother just kind of moved into town and just kind of took one of the homes and was like, this is an orphanage now. So that's kind of why it looks unassuming. Here we have kind of like a blueprint of what Mother has turned the inside of the orphanage into in order to fit everybody. It's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort, but the entire top floor is basically Mother's quarters. You've got like her bedroom, her kitchen, a cute little bathroom, her own laundry, a living space, the balcony, this is her study, and then downstairs on the bigger floor is where like all of the kids kind of sleep and eat and just kind of hang out all together. The last thing I'm going to show off in this video is Jimmy's house. I don't want to show off too much, but I really like Jimmy's house. It's simple, it's nice on the outside and all that, but what I really want to show you is the back. Instead of having a traditional backyard, Jimmy has turned his backyard into where he works with his blacksmithing and stuff, and I just think it looks really cool. You've got his furnace here. This is where he would keep like some of his materials that aren't his metals. He keeps a lot of long bits of metal up here, and the rest of it is just kind of scattered around. Here's a workbench, cute little anvil. I think it's really, really fun. I like the tent, like, kind of top piece as well. I had a lot of fun designing Jimmy's workshop. It was probably the most fun like background element to design. Okay, no, I lied. The last thing I'm going to show off is this concept sketch of the fairy temples, at least what they used to look like. This one is in particular is like important to the story in terms of its location, but you guys will see it when we get there. I just wanted to show it off because I think it's really pretty. Alright, and with that, I think I've shown you everything that I can right now related to the Faeries Tale. Thank you so much for watching. I love doing these little sketchbook flip-throughs. Maybe I'll do one where we just go through an entire sketchbook instead of jumping from sketchbook to sketchbook for relevant topics. I don't know, we'll see where it goes. I'm having a lot of fun making these kind of videos. But anyway, stay warm, stay cozy, stay toasty. If you sneezed during the video at any point, bless you. And I'll see you around. Bye-bye.